blame in-game.
Toxic Jensen back at it again. No, it's just good-witted banter in the champ select. And I'm excited to see these guys go up against each other for the first time. I don't think Perks is having anywhere near the split of Jensen so far this split, because I really think Jensen is in the midst of his best split ever, and he's actually won all NALCS first team before. The way he has controlled the mid lane, and I don't feel like many other people on C9, save for maybe Smoothie, have been consistently performing on this team, which is why they've been struggling. But Jensen has been world class.
So looking at this pick and ban phase, Thresh is always one of the big picks that jump out when he's not being removed in the pick and ban phase. Elise, we already talked about Trick not being the biggest Elise player in terms of just also like first picking it. It's still open, so you kind of want to do it, but most of the time G2 opt out of it. This game though, they actually do take it for Trick, and they're trying to challenge Contracts in the early game.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting there. Contracts could still have Lee Sin or Gragas kind of wherever he wants it. NA a big fan of picking Gragas early and then flexing it between the jungle and top lane.
Let's see what they decide. Trick, one game played in at least the split, it was a loss. Cloud9 really taking their time to decide their first pick, and it's that flex option of Gragas.
And again, right now, Thresh is just the go-to support for a lot of players, but I feel like in North America, Thresh is not picked as often as we see in like Europe specifically, but it's still picked a lot. You know, it's still a very contested pick, but I don't see just locked in the first phase whenever it is available, like I see from a lot of European supports. Still a fine pick here if they want to go for it, and
I think they should.
And it is locked in, gentlemen. Defisha, you mentioned that 98.7% Thresh across EULCS average pick and ban, 58% Thresh across the entirety of North America. So regional meta definitely prefers Thresh.
Yeah, and I think most of that is generally because Lulu and Karma took a long time to fall out of the NA meta, and maybe a little bit less in Europe. It is still Smoothie's most picked champion on the split.
Whenever you do see the Thresh, you always talk about Kalista. We saw C9 play that combo as well before, with, of course, Sneaky getting Kalista, like, would be right now if they actually want to get it. Otherwise, G2 Esports could just ban away. But funny enough, G2 has now picked mid and top laner.
So strange.
Well, it's not, we don't normally see it, but the Orianna blind pick, when Syndra's already banned and LeBlanc is already banned, is extremely safe. Last time Jensen was in this situation, he picked Victor against the Orianna, which is a tough laning phase for Victor to play.
Yeah, I also think Corki is a good pick against it. I wonder what C9 is going to end up doing, because one thing G2 kind of does here is they at least allow themselves to target ban mid lane without creating role scarcity. Because if they don't pick their mid lane and then they start throwing bans at Jensen's mid laner, then C9 can still get kind of the first pick. And there's not that many things that are very good into Orianna, which is what I think G2 should be focusing their bans on here in Phase 2.
Kled coming in from C9, really feel like that is the pick they need against Renekton. You're against Renekton Elise, so no matter what you pick, your top laner is crying because he knows that, okay, he might get camped and he might die a million times, but they feel like Kled is the answer for them. That's why they take it this early right now. Meaning, obviously, again, you can't target ban mid, because otherwise you were in G2's situation being like, do we ban top, do we ban mid? We can't really pinch both roles. Someone will get a good pick.
And that's now why Talia's gone.
Yeah, now they can go straight for mid.
No surprises there. Xayah and Rakan were available. There's actually a Xayah Cloud9 cosplay in the audience. I think that looked particularly fantastic earlier. We'll see whether or not Sneaky can play Xayah at all throughout the course of the tournament. And one more ban for C9. And they're going to take away Braum, targeting Mithy in Phase 2.
Yeah, makes sense. They already have Thresh take out the next most likely supports. Tom Kench is already gone. Braum and Thresh are kind of the three major supports. And then Rakan is another one of those supports that is disproportionately favored in Europe, 70% pick ban rate versus just a 31% in North America. So Cloud9 very targeted with those bans.
Yeah, C9 obviously knows by just banning one of Rakan and Xayah to get rid of the full combo right there that G2 could have run, and something we could definitely see from Sven and Mithy.
Deficio, G2 learning from their earlier mistakes.
Don't want to deal with that Galio mid stuff. European teams, they can't play against it clearly, judging from the first two games. Now, Kalista still open for Sneaky if he wants it in the bottom lane with the Thresh. But this is the Victor we mentioned before. That was Jensen's answer to the Orianna last time against TSM. He did lose lane in that game, and that is how this matchup is supposed to go. Orianna is in a good spot here, especially in the early game, when it comes to just pushing in that lane over and over.
Yeah, absolutely agree that it is an Orianna-favored matchup, but I still do not fault Jensen for picking it, because they're clearly picking for the later game team fight. even if they're just watching the G2 TSM game earlier, G2 did not seem very proactive or playmaking focused until those picks.
Does it get locked? Mithy, Blitzcrank has not been played this split, and it is locked in and secured.
Yeah, Mithy's kind of forced to show something new here because Braum, Tom Kench, and Thresh are all gone, which are his main picks. And you don't really want to play like a Zyra here because it just feels so lackluster once you get out of the laning phase. Blitzcrank, on the other hand, we get to see some playmaking from Mithy. AD carry still missing from C9.
Yeah, I hope they lock in this Tristana because I also like the fact that they waited for the last pick for the AD carry, knowing that the solo lanes were already shown and knowing they'd be able to counterpick this lane. Because Trist, you can actually time your rocket jump so that when a Blitzcrank hook is traveling towards you, you can just rocket jump away from it because of the timing and the way the spell buffers. So a bit of a counterpick in lane there, the Trist against Blist.
And then Mithy says, I will one-up you. So he will just flash onto Tristana with his E, knock her up instantly, and she can't jump anywhere. And then he walks away with the kill. Let's see what happens in game.
If you can still jump away from that.
Really, if you knock her up as well?
Yeah, so the way Trist jump works is it has a quarter-second cast time. If any CC hits during that quarter-second cast time, she still jumps away. It's when she's completed the cast time is in air that you can interrupt it.
So Mithy will just hook her while she's flying.
Yes,
back.
that is what you need to do.
What is this bias, Deficio? So much faith.
No, that can happen in game.
Ability to outplay.
Jazz thing can happen, my thing can happen. I'm just saying, you have a lot of ways as a Blitzcrank to actually try and get onto that AD carry.
I always ask for the Twitter vote. Today I'm going to change it a little bit. Whose thing will happen more? Jat's thing of sneaky escaping Tristana or Deficio's thing of Mithy flashing and catching Tristana? You know where and how to vote. Tag at LOL Esports and we'll find out in game.
For people that watch on mute and follow Twitter for whatever small proportion that is, seeing Jat's thing hashtagged, it's going to be weird.
Jats, according to Reddit, there's a lot of people that listen on mute when I'm shoutcasting. We'll find out whether or not they were listening once we track the Twitter hashtags. It's Cloud9 making their debut in Berlin, Germany for the Rift Rivals matchup against Team G2 Esports. G2, of course, losing earlier today.
Classic G2 fashion. Whenever they play against other regions, gotta lose that first game.
Play for late game. The interesting thing, though, about the format here is depending on how Fnatic performs, there's a chance G2 already isn't going to finals. You actually have to make sure you're performing at a high level comparative to your own region, but you'll never get your own chance to knock them down. So actually really important to win these early games if they want to play in the finals.
Oh, sneaky, sneaky. G2's in the bottom lane. They're actually waiting for sneaky, funny enough.
All right, let's see. You're gonna
good
find
angle.
him. Sneaky.
Run away.
Dun,
Come on, mate, there's flash for this is solo queue.
dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun, dun, dun.
we got one for Jat.
Officially victorious. Jat Thing wins.
He's level 1. He doesn't even have the knock-up yet.
Deficio, I'm saying it now, the superior analysts are from North America.
There we go. NA casters.
Actually, it's so rare that a story like that and a bad joke like that plays out so quickly and so effectively. Thank you, Mithy.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Where was the
Sneaky.
flash, Mithy?
Yes, you wanted them to flash to bring
No,
the
he needs his knock-up first. Don't worry about it.
He needs to flashy.
We're fine. So Sneaky gets the first one. Let's see if Mithy gets the second.
Okay, so we're making this a best of series now.
I think we're done with it. But
Yeah,
We're probably down with it.
Let's see how the laning phase plays out. We've already heard in terms of the matchup, Jensen's going to have a little bit of difficulties versus Perks. And Perks, all eyes on him because he had the MSI performance of his life and has looked a shadow of his former self since returning to EULCS in terms of the dominance and the control and the play.
I just want to argue that point just a little bit because I actually feel like what has happened a lot for G2 is that teams have figured out that it's really hard to kind of camp the bottom lane. So Perks is the target you go for because he wants to try and win his lane. He wants to try and play aggressive. So a lot of teams are putting a lot of jungle focus on him. Look at the bottom lane.
Well, not looking for Sneaky, so we can avoid the call. Double quills come out and double daggers come out. Well, then a lot of damage in return.
So back to the Perks point here, I actually don't think his individual performance has been that big of an issue. I think it's the fact that he has no synergy with his jungler. Because it's so rare that Trick is the man who's in around Perks and actually trying to make up for that pressure against the G2 mid laner.
Yeah, and we even saw an example of that at the start of the day where Perks got ganked, burned his cleanse, and then the repeat gank came from Bjergsen and Svenskeren, and Trick was killing Krugs. And it was a fairly telegraphed play when you see the cleanses down, if the Galio is pushing up towards his turret, will still flash. That's going to happen. You need to be there to counter gank it, or Perks is just going to have to back off the turret.
Let's see what happens in this early game from Trick. Normally on Elise, you want to look for these early plays, but he's more like the guy who wants to farm towards the mid to late game, but he's top lane right now.
Yeah, and specifically, Elise Renekton is a tremendously powerful duo. The CC chain is quite easy. A little bit harder to do against Kled because of the dismount.
The sentence comes out, Hook goes back, it's Hook City in the bottom lane.
Fighting in a minion wave is dangerous.
A lot of damage onto Smoothie and Sneaky. They actually come away worse for wear in total HP.
Let's see top lane right now. One of the good things for Kled is the fact you have Skarl to protect you a little bit. Trick just trying a long-range cocoon and then steps away here. You don't have to dive level 3. You do have enough time in this lane to still snowball it. Like, you can wait for level 6 on Renekton and then try and go for the play, but you need to get this Renekton far ahead in this matchup.
Expect 3 times played Renekton a split, currently undefeated on that champion. Let's see whether or not he can keep that streak alive. As you guys have already mentioned, some pressure and some play available to him if Trick makes it happen. No big advantages yet across the board. Quite a lot of trading in the bottom lane, which is quite exciting to watch every time we look down. Sneaky and Sven going back and forth.
It's really exciting when it's happening, and then you realize both of them started Dorn Shield. So they're just going to heal up to full health afterwards because of the insane regen on that item. But the fact that they're willing to go for those trades and the fact that they're both on Hook supports means we will see action in that lane later.
Let's see if G2 called the miss from the bottom lane, because Smoothie and Sneaky did not go back to base. They actually walked straight towards mid lane. There are no wards from G2 to actually spot this. But Perks is standing towards the top side of the map, and he's not really at risk right now. They also see contracts.
Oh, little spider comes out. Couple of little raptors secured. There's Smoothie still in the mid lane, potentially looking to make plays. And while all that's going on, expect now trading back and forth. Meek, slice and dice used to escape somewhat, while Bear Trap on a rope goes wide. Not quite the impact that you're expecting from the 2 top laners of G2 and C9.
Yes. You did it.
Thank you, thank you.
There you go. That took him about 2 hours before the show to prepare that one.
It did. It took a lot of brain power, and I'm very excited I got it out my system now.
I've trained myself to always use the word influence when I'm talking about what type of impact he will have on the game.
It's tough.
So what did you expect? Like,
expecting our first split last year was very difficult, especially because we don't know what to expect from G2's new top laner. Damn it!
Didn't bring my
keep running
thesaurus
into
for
that one. No, unfortunately not. But pretty even laning phase here, gentlemen. Where will be the first crack? Where do you think the first crack will show? We've talked about Elise Renekton top. What could it be for C9 on the other side?
I mean, with C9, actually, when you run with the Gragas jungle, ganking mid lane is often the best lane to go to. Two ways you can actually get in there. It's very easy to kind of walk behind the enemy mid laner and then with body slam flash force it. There's no cleanse on Perks either. But obviously, you need damage on Jensen first.
Well, Gravity Field's going to stun up Perks, and Shockwave whiffs completely. A pressure shockwave, a zoning shockwave, if you will. Lane Kingdom in the mid lane still TBD. Expect goes in at level 6 without any support. He just ends up trading dominance.
Was really hoping to force the dismount from the Kled to threaten a gank, and both of Cloud9's soul lanes are actually kind of greeding here for their items. Jensen wants the 1250 for his Hex Core upgrade, but then also wants to be able to buy boots afterwards, so much so that he just waits for the mana to ult the wave, and now he can get his recall off. That's also why Perks was going for that ultimate on him, because Jensen had been harassed down that he could have recalled based on the kill pressure.
All right, let's take a look. Power Fist. Let's tag with the Lantern to safety. Sneaky, so many tools with Thresh and Rocket Jump. G2, however, will get their first objective here. It is an Ocean Drake during the laning phase, a slow laning phase, so this is very beneficial for them.
Finally, no Cloud Drake first, which definitely stalls out how early teams will take the Drake. But in this situation, Ocean is best early, and then also good later on against Siege or poke compositions. But in this case, as the laning phase is quite extended, it's going to be very, very good for G2.
Now we kind of hit the moment, though, where Trick is now taking the bot side objective, and Renekton is getting really strong on top side, where you can start going for these dives onto Kled, even with him sitting on Skull.
Trick, look at Trick! Rocket grab into Cocoon! First blood, Sven!
Ooh, and there was just no vision on the map for C9. Part of that is because the soul lanes were just kind of cowering at their turrets, that not many places are safe for contracts to ward. But secondly, Smoothie probably thought that was safe since the Drake had fallen, and he thought Trick will probably recall after that.
Right.
But instead, he finds his way into that brush and gets the kill.
instead. So yeah,
No vision.
I mean, what you can do is just throw in your lantern or something at first, but like it's so easy to say like, as a caster because you see obviously everything on the map at the same time. Smoothie very clearly did not expect a trick to be there.
So G2, first dragon, first blood, 1,000 gold lead, and Sven comes back with Berserker's Greaves and a BF sword. That's a very advantageous position to be in for G2 eSports.
Yeah, so now if you are G2, you have a lot of winning lanes at the same time. Top lane, Renekton is winning it. Right now, Contracts is trying to maybe see if he can do something, help out Impact, but he is spotted by a ward. Bot lane as well with this back here, really good for G2 to try and enforce aggressive plays on the bottom side. And we already know that Orianna is pushing in the Victor, so G2 right now with... Let's see what happens. Actually just jumped away, but with winning lanes and early game jungler, they should be able to get more kills.
Look at the mini-map. Expect needs to buy time. Contracts and Impact realize they're in trouble, decide to back away. All they get is the Dominus and 50% HP. Perkz forced to go back into the jungle and secure this blue Sentinel with the help of Trick.
Yeah, just a really strong early game from G2. They're doing exactly what they need to do. They power picked both of those solo laners. They're winning both of those lanes. And then the lane in which C9 technically got a counter pick is being won heavily by Sven, in part thanks to the Ocean Drake and the gank from Trick.
We still need to see just a bit more, though, from G2 and how they're actually going to try and snowball this, because we see a lot of scaling on C9's side. We know the Victor is going to scale really well. Same with Sneaky on Tristana. And when you have Elise, like, so rarely do you actually want to sit with, you know, just like one little assist or kill in the early game. You're always looking for a lot more, and you want early towers to go down so you can really utilize the pick potential of Elise also later on in the game. And with these winning lanes, you should be able to find that opening if you are Trick.
Expect once again goes in for a trade. He's got a minor CS advantage over Impact. Nothing really to get too excited about, and still pretty even in the mid lane as well, despite this Perkz Orianna and his lane kingdom on his home turf, no less. Not been able to bully Jensen away, but I think a testament to Jensen, just how well he has been playing. Let's see how he transitions into this post 10-minute mark, and still no real threat on any towers, actually, gents.
Yeah, the pressure Jensen has been under doesn't show in CS, but I think it does show in the jungle. The jungle control of C9 is extremely lacking. I mean, no wards really on G2's side of the map, and Trick has full control over this bottom side.
Let's see mid lane, just trading ultis actually.
Yeah, we see that so often in this type of matchup. Just push the wave farm, wait for more abilities. Mithy actually uses that Feather Storm, Sven rather, to escape. Blade Call is available to him, manages to get a two-man route, and that's the kill for Mithy. The barrel comes up for Contracts, now he's the target. That's a double kill for Blitz.
And if you are C9, like we just talked about how G2 have all these winning lanes and early game junglers, so C9 just actually want to try and wait. They don't really want to fight anything. They were doing okay in terms of just losing a bit of jungle pressure, but then at least getting farm in lanes. Then bot lane, Smoothie throws back that lantern. He's like, Contracts, get in here, boy, get in here. We're going to fight this. And then they both die.
And he had the flash the whole time. He's at a big level disadvantage. They pick a fight that they're not necessarily able to win, but they're also not willing to flash away. So some poor play there by the C9 bot lane.
See it again, like, so they know Elise have taken a blue buff, and she could still be on the bottom side. Hook comes in, and right now, if you're C9, you need to just try and walk away. But they actually end up lantering Contracts into it. He flashes forward with the body slam as well, uses everything he has. In a fight they're never going to win.
Yeah, and they're just not working with information or really respecting where Trick could be, because the Lantern play might have worked if the Elise isn't going there, but if the Elise isn't going there, is G2 really going to be playing so aggressive? And the answer is no, but this is what she should get.
Wow, rocket grab. That one finds Deficio Thing. Not even needing a flash. Look at the stats.
Not at all the same thing, but it's fine.
G2 got first dragon, first blood.
Oh, he's going to try again.
Looking towards first tower. I mean, this is a stark contrast from G2's traditional early games, because they've been very bad, but as have C9, slow to start statistically.
That is slow to start to the split, slow to start to pretty much every game in the spring and in the summer. Even at the end of the regular season for C9, when they were the second place team, they still were down gold at 15 and 20 on average. So by no means is it the strength of their game, but usually it's not 3,000 gold by 12 minutes.
It seems to me most games that C9 play, the way they kind of end up winning is once they get out of the early game, they're really good at grouping up as a team and then forcing fights. Like, they need like one champion that can always engage. In this case here, they have both Kled and Gragas to do that. And then they need like strong late game fighters to then try and win these big team fights. Now, that is obviously a style that we see from some teams in Europe, like
G2.
G2 does it, like Unicorn's a lot of late game, is a lot of like group 5 and try and hard engage and force the team fight. The problem is just when you are then drafting scaling champions and you end up then falling behind in laning phase, you suddenly fall behind a lot of gold. And if the enemy team is actually able to play a proper mid to late game and close it out, you never get your big team fight.
Yeah, right, because sometimes you double down on your weakness in that case. You're already not great in the early game, and then your champions themselves make it worse. And here we see another Ocean Drake. No pressure at all. I mean, C9 hasn't had a ward in G2's jungle this entire game. Look at that blackout of vision, plus they're already down that turret against an Elise Blitzcrank, so they're respecting the Fog of War a lot too. And everything's just working so well for G2.
Tower First Blood was picked up, Dragon number 2 is picked up. By the way, if you look at the gold differences, Sven is 1,600 gold higher than Sneaky right now. He's already picked up his Essence Reaver, the makings of a Zeal. And that is just a gigantic advantage for one of the best 80 carries in the West. Trick is not going to find Sneaky. Rocket Jump comes out, Buster Shot as well. Super Mac range Cocoon.
No one was actually there to help Trick in case he got onto Sneaky, but I think the one positive right now for C9 is the fact that Impact in the top lane, no one actually went up to gank him. He didn't get killed on his tower. He's been able to get as much farm as possible and kind of go even with this Renekton. And that is obviously one of the things that is very hard to do against Renekton Elise as a specific combo. But Trick is spending all his time on the bottom side.
Yeah. Impact on that very farmed Kled. Charges
2 minions. It's maximize farm.
ambiguously towards the opponents.
That was uninspiring from an ultimate perspective.
Definitely not going to be helping out C9. Flash Cocoon, Rocket Grab is going to find the target, and Trick gets the kill.
G2 knew that that flash from Contracts wouldn't be up for a few more seconds. It's ready now.
That was beautiful play there by Trick and Mithy. And you see the burst damage of Elise right now with Runic Echoes and the gun and the revolver.
Well, this is the largest gold lead that G2 Esports have had all summer long against any opponent, and they are making it look flawless. 2 towers, 2 dragons, 4 kills, potentially a 3rd tower here as well, because there's no one to defend. And his Trick soloing the Rift Herald as well. Literally everything belongs to G2.
I mean, right now, they're not actually playing against anyone. They're literally just sitting and pushing minions and then taking every objective.
Oh, Sven, why are you here? Featherstorm comes out, Sneaky flash.
Oh, nice flash.
Sven's in trouble, goes in with the lantern. Death Sentence is connected, and Sneaky gets out alive.
And suddenly, C9, they show up in the bottom lane. Sneaky knew that Sven would flash to try and then use his E on Xayah to actually root Sneaky in place, so he also flashes with it and gets that 1 kill. So G2 Esports, they've been playing the PvE game for quite a while right now, and then C9 says, no, we're also here to play.
It's like the April Fool's bot game. You feel like you're playing against bots for a while, and it turns out C9 actually can make plays because they haven't been doing much of anything this whole game, but now they're going, they're making the play, they get the kill, and they're finally using their team composition. They have to keep the game close in this stage if they want a chance late.
Very nicely done for C9 to at least claw back some deficits, but it is a very uphill struggle. 5,000 gold after this tower falls. That's what G2 has as a lead. And G2 continue to put pressure in the C9 jungle. Vision keeps getting pushed deeper and deeper. It's allowing them to set up plays. And that's so important when you have a Blitzcrank on your squad.
Definitely very true. C9 trying to always find Mithy and kind of understand where he is. Right now, Jensen doesn't know where Mithy is, and he might die.
All right, Gravity Storm comes out. Ooh, Mithy, swing and a miss. Trading flashes, though, that's probably worthwhile.
Yeah, really good there that Jensen actually used his Q before he flashed, so he had the move speed to dodge the upcoming hook. But now he's without flash, and G2's looping around.
Oh, Jensen gets caught this time round. Cleanse comes out, gets to the lantern. Smoothie with the save.
Jensen stays alive. G2 Esports still sitting around mid lane with a lot of members. Mithy looking for more hooks. Like, this is the dream for a Blitzcrank. You have your Moby boots, your team has been winning every lane, you can sit in the enemy jungle and look for just the one guy who's left on his own.
Yeah, vision control is a Blitzcrank's best friend here, and there's just the side lane pressure.
Oh, gets contracts. Cocoon finds a target as well, sinks the fangs in.
Flash.
Trick 202 Zig Impact rather coming to engage on the Kled. Death Sentence connects onto Perks, but there's no real follow-up. Chaos Storm's not doing a lot of damage. The rest of G2, they let the Rift Herald take down the inner turret, and 5 kills to 1. Push that gold lead to 8,000 before 20 minutes.
Ooh, impact.
Correction, 6,000. Need to do basic arithmetic.
Classic quick shot math.
That's it. I don't know why I try. I should have said to a bigger lead. It's not worth it.
Sometimes we just make it harder for ourselves.
I know.
Every
G2,
time, actually.
And you know what? C9 making it harder for themselves now as Missy finds another great hook.
Yeah, and it's such a thick wall. He pulls him over there, and then, oh, definitely a bit of a fail flash there, but I don't know if he was close enough to the wall after the hook in order to get the flash with the CC.
Yeah, the fact that Mithy actually pulled him slightly away from the wall meant that the wall is basically going to place him now on the other side, and that's why he's staying in place. Mithy didn't find another hook, but we're right back to live, and once again, Mithy's on the way.
All right, let's take a look. Lantern's been taken. There's no flash available to Sneaky. Mithy
then
gets
hook.
the silence, breaks the chain, but the rocket jump still powerful enough for the escape.
Needed that flash, man.
He did everything that he could right there. He got in range to silence so he could hook and the jump wouldn't be able to go off, and then Sneaky just hops away anyways. Tries so hard as a blitzcrank. The good news is everyone else that he hooks matters.
Sneaky
and that's
is
why
just
he's got
that good.
100% KP. 0-0-1 Trist. Smashing.
Well,
Hey, he's been doing something for his team in this game. Like, he got a tower as well in the bottom lane. So I think right now, Sneaky and Smoothie have basically been the only ones who've really been able to do something for C9.
this is G2 a little bit of return to form, and C9, Jet, how expected is this slow start? I mean, no one should say they're going to expect a 6k goal deficit, right? But based on C9's playstyle, as you mentioned already, isn't this kind of what could have happened?
I mean, it does happen to C9 from time to time, but their mid and late game oftentimes is strong to pull them through. And they've had the odd good early game. This has by no means been a strong or hot start to C9 for the split. There's definitely been a lot of issues they've been playing through. Interestingly enough, a lot of it's been with Impact and Ray swapping in and out, and Impact not having very impressive showings and them kind of failing to play around the top lane oftentimes. Whereas this game is the... Oh, he messed it up!
Oh, Sneaky's caught. Caster Curse exists, is real. We just praised him, and Sneaky gets busted.
Did not. He rocket jumped early there because what happened is he was already jumping through, and then it gets interrupted by the hook. Sneaky. So reliable up until that moment.
Yeah, it's our fault, actually. We proved last week on ELCS, Caster Curse is a thing.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
But anything, the lack of playmaking by C9 is definitely worse than you would have seen in a lot of their North American games. But a lot of that is just because the sweeper is coming out from G2 and the strong laning phase in all three lanes and the threat of the Blitz and Elise makes it so C9 doesn't have very many avenues with which to make any plays.
And we have to remember that pick and ban phase. First phase where G2 said, you know, we first pick Elise, which is not something we see very often from them, to focus on the early game. And then they went for that Renekton Orianna. With Syndra banned, with LeBlanc banned, like, Jensen didn't really have a good choice to try and then beat Perks in the laning phase, and also with the Renekton top lane, same thing, there's really nothing left for C9 to play to beat the Renekton. So they just had a lot of lanes in a disadvantage from the draft.
Very excited to see Mithy performing so well on Blitzcrank as well. First time this summer, Rakan was banned, Braum was banned, Thresh was picked early, so Mithy's champion pool really took quite a beating.
Yeah.
And 100% KPs hit every important hook has allowed his team to get kills, and you know, look, the whole team's playing well, but some kudos to Mithy for showing up on a champion that we've not seen him play yet.
And then he misses.
Yeah, that was an optimistic.
That was a non-important hook. He still hit all the
That's true.
That's how I classify the difference.
That makes sense.
All right, let's see what happens. Sneaky, Lantern gets interrupted. Silence, though, just a tad late. While that was going on, Impact, by the way, forced to use Charge and Flash to get away from Expect on the bottom lane. Keep our attention on screen as Sven throws out a couple of double daggers. And the barrel from Contracts ends up saving G2 instead of setting them up.
And obviously we're looking a lot at Contracts if C9 are going to make a comeback in this game, because he's going to be that main engage to find the correct opening to then see if they can kill maybe Perks, maybe Sven. Obviously very difficult against a Xayah with their own ulti. But C9, they need a crazy good engage from Contracts, and they're going for mid lane.
They are indeed. Perks already flash. Here comes Sneaky. Decent shockwave. May not be enough.
Great timing on that point, I just want to add.
Picks up the kill, and that's easily done. While that's going on, the rest of G2 take the top turret, and expect, by the way, losing that trade. It looked like he was forced away by impact. Okay, C9, they're not done yet. They're looking for another tower.
Yeah, G2 want the inhibitor, though. It's still 2 people pushing on the top side, and a Kled just now getting back to base who has no ultimate and no flash, but the respect has to be given because the Thresh has recalled as well.
All right, so G2 end up coming away with chip damage on the turret, but C9 stall the game out a little bit. And G2 can now play around Baron. I mean, look at those control wards in C9's red buff quadrant of the jungle.
Yeah, this doesn't change too much for G2. Like, the play is still the same now. Like, Baron is your main objective because you can use that to bait a team fight against a team that's really far behind. But it just means C9 gets a bit of gold, and they have very gold-hungry champions in Tristana and Victor. So getting another tower there helps, and Smithy's dead.
Yeah, what an important hook for Mithy to land.
There we go.
Catches Smoothie into the pit. C9 at least have interrupted Baron, but at the cost of Smoothie's life and Impact's teleport. So that's just going to open up another avenue. G2 can now play the split push game and threaten Baron at the same time.
Exactly. Expect can still threaten the 1v1 against Impact. They can still get even more vision around the Baron area and then just wait for Mithy to go and find the right hook. On top of that, you're seeing Sven getting very close to the Infinity Edge. He's far ahead of Sneaky's item timings. So many things for G2.
This is where my heart just breaks. You know, when I see Doran's ring, Doran's shield, 23 minutes in for G2 eSports, when they're all about setting up vision control for the Blitzcrank into a Baron bait, like, come on, guys. Come on, Perks. Come on, Sven. You can do it too. You can help the team win the game by putting down vision.
Control wards.
You don't need Doran's shield at 24 minutes. I'm just going to say that.
Not on Warlord's Xayah, who is going to be healing just fine.
Anyway, Sven, he might die for it now. That's the reason he might die.
All right, Featherstone buys a few seconds. The flash buys even more. Stun comes back. Sven almost takes out Contracts, but the damage just not there yet. He needed that Infinity Edge. Expect teleports it into the middle lane as Sneaky rocket jumps to safety. Dominus is put down and nothing else follows up. It's a 7,000 gold deficit. Expect has flashed. Can't find the Ruthless Predator, and Jensen's able to walk away.
Remember, Jensen also sits with Cleanse ready. Could have used it there, but G2 wanted to try and force his flash with maybe the shockwave from Perks. Expect didn't make it just in range, and he ends up using flash for nothing. And right now, C9, 2 little picks in a row where they're able to engage and get some kills and delaying G2 from getting this big objective.
Yeah, Jensen's Victor is still scaling up. When he gets Lichbane, he's going to cut through anyone on the G2 front line. This is a time where G2 was trying to set up the 1-3-1 to get into Baron, and Sven was just a little bit further up the lane than he had a right to be, since Orianna wasn't close either. That being said, they nearly convert the kill back onto Contracts and then have to make a big run for it.
So obviously what's going to happen when one team is so far ahead in gold, like getting this 1-for-0 trade almost never happens in favor of the team so far down, but C9 been able to do it and slowly grinding their way back.
I think that's like a really impressive win-loss with a gold deficit at 25 minutes. 14 and 18.
Oh, yeah.
Nearly, was it 5-0? Is that how you, no, 500? Is that how North Americans say win percentage?
Close to 500, yeah.
Close to 500 win percentage. When behind in gold, they're going to need a miracle to bring it back there, because 7K, 3 dragons, and make this 4 dragons. It's a difficult challenge.
I mean, they need G2 to keep playing sloppy, like we've just seen here around the mid lane. First Perks being really far up, dying, and then obviously then the engage we just saw before here. That's another tower now for C9. 2 items completed on Sneaky, 2.5 on Jensen. So G2 are getting the Drakes. G2 are still in a great spot to set up Baron, secure the Baron, and then use that to close out the game. But you can't keep making these mistakes here, because C9 will punish you.
Yeah, and G2 having 4 Drakes doesn't actually help them that much in this situation. The first Ocean Drake was great for the laning phase. The next 2 are almost write-offs at this point, because it's not like C9 has a big poke composition, or that G2 is really utilizing these in-and-out team fights where they need the regen. Or if they had a really resource-heavy champion, Elise uses hardly any mana, and then Renekton doesn't need the Ocean Drake at all.
So if you are G2 right now, you kind of need to reset the whole thing, completely stock up on your control wards that C9 have been killing after the last few fights we have seen, and then you need that jungle control we see here where C9 is walking into the Baron setup.
Yeah, looking at this game at 12 minutes, you would never want to be C9. If you take that scenario and then say, you're only going to be down 5,000 gold at 27, you take that in a heartbeat. C9 has actually played the last 15 minutes better than G2, decreasing the goal lead while not losing the game.
Yeah, we'll see how well they perform. Cloud9, though, They've got to try to deal with this vision. Deficio, a disappointed dad, Deficio, as the Doran's Ring and Doran's Shield are still there. Stats team have pinged me with a brief update. Sven ranks 7th among 80 carries for purchasing control wards in EU LCS. Perks ranks 8th amongst mid laners in the EU LCS for purchasing control wards. So don't get your expectations too high this game.
They're kind of closing in on each other right now, but it's funny how the lack of G2 kills coincides with the lack of G2 control wards, but now they go for Contracts. Contracts goes for them.
All right, good flash away from Perks, keeps him alive. Lantern buys some time for Jensen, and the Shockwave still available. Perks pushing forward on the front line. Big engage from Contracts, does not find a key target.
Well, they did say, they did actually trade flashes there, so I think he actually found the correct target in Perks. And we said this earlier with Contracts, he's the man we're looking at for these engages here. Oh, they got a hook.
All right, rocket grab in, Lantern to safety, Scarl gets popped. Smoothie doing a lot of work, but look at G2, tower number 6 going to fall. And Perks' flash on cooldown, so Contracts needs to find another one of those barrels. And that time it'll be more impactful.
They're TPing in right now. Impact is going to be behind G2, and Sven just went back to base.
They have a numbers advantage.
5 versus 4. Expect Dominus is available. Flash is not. Bear Trap on a rope pulls him backwards, and the teleport engage does not find a target.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if C9 saw that Sven completed his recall, so they didn't want to all in on a potential 5v5 with the gold deficit. So once Expect kind of broke away from the initiation, C9 decided not to follow.
So, Trevor, you just told me not to get my hopes up. Look at Sven and Perks.
I will. And Sven right now has 2 control wards in his inventory. He averages 3.6 per game. There's only 1 for Perks. He averages 3 per game. We'll see if they break that average.
1.
And Perks didn't actually sell his Dorans.
No, that's true. That's true. In this case,
he just completed an item to buy some space. As soon as he starts the next component, that Dorans is staying.
We are a little bit happier now when we look at G2's
4 players.
Wards. Now, obviously, next step is you got to place them. It's very easy to buy them. You also got to then utilize where you actually place them down. But this is where G2 should know that. The trick is always convincing your carries, hey, you could help too, and you should buy a ward. And once you do that, you can also tell them where to place it. They don't actually need to think on their own.
Well, let's see whether or not Mythy can control where G2 places their wards. I'm looking at the minimap. Pretty dark in the C9 side of the jungle. There's one blue trinket up towards the Krugs, and C9 doing relatively well. You know, with 30 minutes in, yes, they are 7,000 gold down, but they're in a good spot considering the laning phase.
Yeah, Tristus hit that item sweet spot. Smoothie has been really starved on gold. He'd love to have a Knight's Vow right about now. I feel like C9 might be building up towards 2 of them. I think that Cloth Armor on Contracts will go to Knight's Vow, as with Smoothie. And they will synergize well if they get to that point and the Goldie doesn't get out of control.
Just looking at the carries, they are even in items. So if you look at just pure carries right now, the 6,000 gold lead doesn't mean anything for G2 eSports. It's more Contracts who's really far behind. And of course, he's a lot squishier than maybe he wanted to be at this point in the game. But it's not like G2 is packing that much more damage than C9, despite the gold lead.
Yeah, just in jungle and support, it's a 4,000 gold lead for G2, which means there's only a 2,000 gold difference across the carry roles. Now, Trick can one-shot someone, so the Elise gold actually does matter a fair bit.
Definitely matters.
But as far as the team fights go, C9 could theoretically win one if they get the right initiation.
Mythy was looking to catch Sneaky mid-air, didn't find the target. Impact does a little bit of a flyby as the barrel splits up G2.
Perks is down!
Perks is down before the shockwave, and that means C9 are on the offensive. Expect is the target. He's a big crocodile, gets pulled back into the gravity field. Impact gets caught by the rocket crab, but it simply won't matter. Sven running away for his life. Featherstorm has bought some time. Reap it on screen, gonna be happy with Cloud9 bouncing back. And maybe this is a Baron.
Yeah, if they get Trick down, they can go for this, which is why it's so critical that he makes this chase last a long time, because C9 want to start that Baron ASAP, and Trick actually slithers away.
He's alive for now, but C9 are still starting. The Baron. Trick is so low, he dies from almost nothing. Mythy's here, Sven there with full HP as well.
Why is that there in the UOL room? That doesn't make any sense.
It's called the manager.
They're going for it.
All right, Baron's the target. Impact pulled out. Rappel goes up. 2,000 hit points. Baron's going to be not available for G2. And Cloud9 are back.
What a comeback so far from C9. They had no pressure for the early game. They were playing it as passive as possible, and G2 couldn't push it over the edge.
I want people to remember that Contracts a few minutes ago had an engage straight onto Perks where he forced the summoners from Perks. Instantly, Contracts were pulled back out of that fight. No one ended up dying. But the following fight, Perks ends up staying in the front line, disrespects Contracts and C9, and who do they find? They find Perks, they kill him instantly, they win the fight. Look at this here, no flash on Perks, he's staying far up the mid lane, and then after, he actually ends up hitting the blue trinket while he's walking back, not intentional, stopping him in place again, making it super easy for C9 to jump onto him and kill him. So it all started with the previous fight where no one died, but the key flash was down from one of the main carries on G2 Esports.
And this has been C9's strength for pretty much all of 2017. It's been their mid to late game, their ability to find the right fights. Even with what was a gargantuan gold deficit, they were still finding the odd pick and getting a turret. And that can catch up to you as G2 if the other team has such scaling carries like Trist and Victor.
Yeah, a lot of credit to C9 and Contracts for not just tilting after such a rough early game. Mythi's getting caught now.
All right, Rocket Grab actually started that one off. Contracts is down. Caster Curse by Deficio. Junglers are traded. Excuse me, as Trick gets taken down. Impact and Sneaky waiting for a re-engage. It's a 4-on-4 scenario, but C9 with Baron.
The shockwave going down diminishes G2's ability to defend this turret. C9 might want to go pretty hard here.
Well, tower's already popped. Perks out of position in his own jungle. Cloud9 still down in towers, but it doesn't matter. There's the swing, the wind-up from Smoothie. Not going to find a target yet. Sneaky just out of range. Sven gets chunked down by the Death Ray and the Chaos Storm. Forced to run for his life. Expect is killed while the Chaos Storm keeps the rest of G2 busy. In the background, you can see Phoenix One watching the game closely.
Yeah, Expect's tankiness is pretty irrelevant at this stage against the near full item Tristana and the 3 to 4 item Victor. You saw how quickly he died there, so it's really difficult for G2 to actually have a heads-up fight unless they get a Blitzcrank hook to start it off.
Well, they're trying to get one right there. Ends up being Mythy then, jumped on by Contracts. They end up trading his junglers early on. Nothing more happens other than a shockwave.
Yeah, really good sidestep by Sneaky. Sneaky's played a very strong game. Even when they're having a deficit, he was the one to start the plays and actually had multiple aggressive flashes which created kills early on.
And C9, they deserve all the credit in the world for this kind of comeback here. But you also just have to look at G2 Esports and say the G2 Esports that normally wins the EULCS, the team that went all the way to the final of MSI, when they used to get advantages, they would know how to actually snowball it and then close out the game. This game right here, this game we're just watching, we're seeing a G2 Esports be massively far ahead. Forget to buy wards. You know, they lose a few control wards, they never rebuy them, they never put them in place, and then people just overextending left and right. They've been playing so sloppy in the late game.
Sven did sell a longsword for a control ward just now, but that's still only 2 people on the team that can even do that.
It's kind of too late as well because it's C9 pushing down your base.
And guys, not only did Sven try to pick up some wards, Perks did not. He was caught. His flash was popped. And this is what set up the chain reaction that allowed C9 to get Baron and arrest control on the map.
Yeah, and as Deficio mentioned, at this point, control wards are the least of their concerns. They gotta be able to get the pick, but Mythy goes for Sneaky. He buffers the jump properly. They're just gonna keep recycling this play. They could even wait for the next Baron. Where G2 need to get something is 1 kill before the Elder Drake, because those 5 Elemental Drakes could be massive.
The Contracts.
Here's the target. Shockwave used as well. He's able to escape. Look at the Chaos Storm! Looking for resets! Sneaky's popped. Not going to be enough for Perks, but he finds Trick instead. Sneaky Rocket jumps forward. Tags expected a couple of shots as Mythy's Rocket Grab goes wide.
And right now, C9 are just outplaying G2 in these fights here. They have the fed carries. They know exactly how to engage the fights as well with Contracts. They're going for this tower as well. Expect here, no ulti, full HP, but
that's really hard to defend. Sven has no ult.
No, he doesn't. Forced to flash. Used his Feather Storm in the last change. Impact finds the bear trap on a rope, and the Rocket Grab misses all targets. Mythy forced to run away. Those important hooks he was landing earlier, not landing this time.
Now C9 pretty much in full control. The Elder Drake in 1 minute and 40 seconds. maybe the last vestige of hope for G2 here. The gold is still even, but just looking at the way the game trends, a blitz hook has to land or a shockwave has to land, and those have been absent for the past 10 to 20 minutes.
Spin onto contracts, and they're trying to use everything to kill him, but Smoothie has been on point in this game with his lanterns. He's always standing behind the different members of C9 that could actually get hooked by Mythy, and instantly Lantern just calms down. Smoothie has not been trying to make massive plays here. He's just constantly in the right place to save his team. Now expect, yeah, he's getting covered by late game
He's just gonna get run down. Sneaky.
Why would you flash?
Why would you flash? Rest of C9 comes in. There's some damage onto Impact. Rocket Grab will at least pop Skarl. But that's unfortunate. Could have been a kill if either happened a moment or two earlier or later. Good damage on the contracts. G2, 1 minute to Elder, 40 seconds, sorry, 1 minute to Baron, 40 seconds to Elder, and C9 have got the pick of the litter.
Yeah, and that pick so critical because it buys C9 time to get vision in this side of the jungle. Gotta be careful, they get Sneaky!
All right, Sneaky caught out, shut down. Important hook lands for Mythy. This will buy
very
time.
important.
This is going to set up
the hook.
many of the objectives.
That's like the most important hook of the game for Mythy, because right now G2 can actually go to that Elder Drake. 50 seconds on Sneaky. The late game Tristana is not here. Is Mythy gone?
Wow, Mythy forced to flash away. The box was used. Rocket Crab falls just short of Jensen, and he's thrown out the Chaos Storm.
Yeah, now Chaos Storm is down. The triple Ocean Drake will regen them to full health. G2, even though they're getting mid lane priority, just need to secure that Elder Dragon.
They have Expect with TP as well. He's actually going straight towards that Elder Drake, not even saving it for a potential flank. They know with 20 seconds on Sneaky that he should not be there for a fight.
The most important hook. C9 should not and cannot contest this Elder Dragon, and now it is 2 minutes plus of a 5 Elemental Drake Elder.
Oh, they were looking for Baron, maybe trying to rush it, but again, you have no way to carry. You can't.
G2 can just get Baron.
Yeah.
Because
G2 will get this.
You do not want to fight this Drake. The amount of true damage you get when you have this many Elemental Drakes totally swings the fight.
Oh, G2
What
just
was
got
he doing down there?
I don't know, taking red buff or something. Whatever AD carries do. I don't know what AD carries do in the late game.
For the last 5 seconds.
Well, let's take a look. Baron is going to be secured here by G2 unless C9 can pull a miracle. Very late on the barrel. Secured off by Sven at the end of the day. C9 now on the retreat. All of a sudden, G2 have regained control of the game.
All that hard work from C9 to get back in the game, the sloppy late game from G2 eSports, might not mean anything all of a sudden, because now they have all the buffs in the game.
And they have been so efficient with this Elder buff. It's still more than half duration. They can at least get this inhibitor. Or if they win a fight here, the game is over with the empowered Baron minions.
Let's find out what they can do. The inhibitor turret is the focus. Sven trying to dodge the death ray. Remember, Jensen, no flash available to him. Mythy's pushing forward, trying to zone away members of C9. Inhibitor already secured.
G2 right now have no minions in the bottom lane. They only have the mid lane ones coming in as well to try and get another inhib. So they shouldn't be able to just instantly rush down all 3 of them.
Elder Dragon, 2/3 of the cooldown used, still 30% remaining. Mythy used the Righteous Glory to threaten and engage, and Cloud9 once again playing from behind.
But if C9 can stop G2 here and only lose 2 inhibs, then that is more than fine when you consider the fact that G2 with 5 Drakes had an Elder Drake and a Baron buff. Because this late in the game, with your carries, you can defend against 2 lanes of super minions fairly easy.
Yeah, they were so fast with that Baron, though, that they can still get the 2 waves of super minions while threatening the 3rd wave with Baron. So that could potentially be their win condition, because I kind of agree with you there. If C9 goes 6 items versus 6 items against G2, they're still advantaged. It's just when G2 is holding the Elder Dragon that C9 can't fight them.
Right, because again, normally what would happen late game, if a team is sitting with Elder Drake and Baron buff, like, they run it straight down and try and then take a fight to then win the game. So the fact you didn't actually lose the game right here as C9, despite losing these buffs here with all the Drakes on the side of G2, just means you actually have a second chance to get back in. Yes, you might have to fight super minions with some Baron buffs in there. Way better than fighting the Elder Drake buff team.
But this is it as well. They have this gargantuan wave of minions that they're pushing up the bottom lane. However, C9 did use that time to at least buy them about 30 seconds before those waves can crash up against their own turret. And that's actually when they want to fight. So now G2 respects it and lose their giant wave.
Well, good play from C9, and what an interesting game we've had.
Here's the fight.
Impact decides to engage. Featherstorm already used. Flash pop by Sven. The death sentence goes wide. Shockwave catches Cloud9, but G2 are losing all of their hit points. They're forced to run away. Expect wasn't here for the entirety of the fight. He was pushing in the mid lane.
Yeah, and here's where Triple Ocean matters. The ultimates are down from C9. G2 will return to full health, and they now have the minions in the mid lane. This could be the final push.
While Trick's HP was regenerating relatively well, Expect has managed to catch out Sneaky. Lantern goes down, but it's not activated. Expect, with Dominus running, is distracting C9.
Again.
The third and final inhibitor is the focus for Sven. It goes down. Super minions pouring into the base, and this Baron power play is phenomenal.
C9 able to defend the Nexus turrets for now. But with 3 lanes of super minions coming in, it gets harder and harder. They were looking for that engage. They knew as soon as Elder Drake was gone.
They're TPing in. C9 still want to fight.
Let's see what Sneaky can do. Gets caught by the power fist and the rocket grab. Impact needs to kill Sven. Deficio finally wins. It was the exact play Miffy needed to do. Contracts trying to distract and deal with C9. Trick goes down in the melee, and so does Contracts. Expect now in the front line. Cull the Meek gives him HP. Still got the GA available, and C9 have 3 members left to defend against Supers.
Well, have fun, C9. That's not going to be easy.
Oh my goodness, it's no Baron, but there's just Jensen and Krug's minions. They just have to escort them to the spot to win.
Oh, they're trying.
Smoothie's looking for Perks and catches him. Now Sven's running away. Double daggers comes out.
What just happened?
Double kill for Jensen. Death sentence on to Expect. The super minions pouring into the base. Sven's target is Jensen for now. Manages to pop Smoothie on the back end. Featherstorm comes out. Impact is doing what he can. Score! Not enough to save Cloud9.
Jensen's still coming out of base.
Let's see what Jensen can do. No Chaos Storm available.
Oh,
to
he's
him.
gonna farm
Sven
3 lanes.
and Expect are running away.
Oh,
what is this game?
Man, Perks had one job. Just sit with your team and wait for the minions. And Smoothie actually found the flash engage onto him. So credit to the Smoothie for the engage here, but G2, for some reason, didn't manage to win the game.
Hey, there's a lot of things in this game, Deficio, that happen for some reason.
I've lost every brain cell. I'm done.
Rift Rivals, baby. But
Oh, I love it.
You talked about, we don't even see the start of this where Sneaky rocket jumped into a Blitzcrank, but here, Perks gets obliterated by Jensen, and then it gets really close. Jensen did a bunch of work in this fight and managed to stay alive the whole time.
Stayed in the back. Sven actually gets Smoothie with a very
Look at how
long
low
range
Jensen gets.
feather right there. All right, so in the end, Nexus turrets gone.
Life goes on.
All 3 inhibs down. Still, obviously, G2 sitting with all the Drakes and
The
everything.
Nexus turrets are all down. Expect does have teleport, but no wards in there because I believe it's been swept out. One ward is in the base that they could try and backdoor with, but these inhibitors, they're actually going to come up kind of soon.
I don't even want to hear you say backdoor when G2 plays an NA
Why-
team, because
why-
last time that didn't work.
Why, when G2 plays against NA teams on the international stage this year, do we have some of these more unique games, interesting games, discussion-worthy games? 4,500 gold on that Baron power play. And G2, all they have to do is work with the super minions to break open these inhibitors again. But you just don't feel like it's over yet.
Well, the 2 of them are back, and the 3rd inhibitor's coming back in a minute, and C9 actually has a better 5v5 if they get to fight straight up. So the fact that the game didn't end means C9 can still win.
I guess G2 are trying to look for the one pick maybe, get another Baron to buff up these minions, and you can use that to get into the Nexus. But at this point, if you're G2, you might also start talking about that backdoor you mentioned, Jad, and be like, okay, is there a way to maybe avoid C9 for long enough to get to the Nexus? But if you look at their champions, like Orianna is not mobile enough to really get in there fast and actually kill the Nexus.
Oh, Cocoon onto Contracts. Really good damage from Perks. Got himself to full build. There's no more space for wards. Now we'll forgive, now we will forgive you for not buying them. As G2 have crested their longest game in summer, all split long. There's literally nothing standing between G2 and the Nexus. An exposed inhibitor.
Well, C9 is standing in the way,
soon.
Trevor.
Well, C9 have to get in G2's faces if they want to, once again, claw back the deficit. I mean, they've done it before, and I think they can still do it again.
Yeah, I mean, they can actually probably 2-man this Baron, and that will be fine. It's really all going to be about the Elder Dragon, which is on a different respawn timer from the Baron. It's 10 minutes for the Elder Dragon and 6 for Baron. Because, I mean, looking at the items, you got no boots on either of the 80 carries. You got the new Zeke's item on both supports, because why not? And you got Locket Stoneplate on both the top lane tanks for the 2,500 point shields. Like, this is pretty much 6 items versus 6 items on both sides.
Jets, Cloud9 have won a 60-minute game in the NALCS.
Sure.
Do you think this game will go that long and that they can pull it back?
Yeah, Jad, what do you think?
Yeah, yes. No, I actually don't think this game will go that long. I think the next Elder Dragon will be the breaking point. If G2 get it, they win.
Right.
You think? And if
You don't really want to make that prediction.
They should.
Yeah. That's why that question from Joe was like so hard, because in this game specifically, like no one actually knows.
I mean, C9 should have won, but then Sneaky gets hooked at red buff, and then outside of the base, he rocket jumped into a Blitzcrank and 5 people and got one shot. So, what do?
Well, we're going to find out. Contracts looking for Perks. No flash available. Shockwave only onto Smoothie. Perks goes golden with the hourglass, but he's taken down the Contracts. Teleport comes out from Expect. Jack, do you believe now?
That's pretty low.
Looking for the engage. Smoothie's running for his life. Cocoon onto Jensen. He manages to get caught. Mithy with the engage.
Oh, he's down.
Dead Impact. Dead Jensen. Smoothie and Sneaky fall. And G2 turn the fight around.
They're actually gonna do it, man. They're walking straight down the base. They just need to kill one inhib. But what a game!
What a ridiculous turnaround at 49 minutes. G2 win the game, lose the game, but eventually win the game versus C9.
And he just fit the game so well that Perks gets caught before the last fight and dies again, but then his team shows up and just turn it around and actually win that fight. Like, I felt like we had like 3 or 4 games in this one game alone of just the early advantage. You should basically have won, but then this other team came back. Now they should be winning, and then I don't even know.
All planned, I think, would be what you'd say at the end of it. And you say win the game, lose the game. There were 3 or 5 moments in that game where it felt like either G2 or C9 had it in the bag. Trying to think about the game in a linear fashion just doesn't work with this matchup. Crazy game.
Absolutely crazy. Such a huge advantage for G2 eSports, squandered in the mid-game by exceptionally good play from C9. You know, punishing the lack of vision and playing really well around what G2 are doing.
I mean, Quickshot, you mentioned during the cast here that this was a larger lead in this game that G2 had than they had at all during the summer split so far.
Yep.
And then at some point, C9 was up on gold on them because they actually mounted the giant comeback until they themselves lost it back to G2.
Yeah, I mean, such a crazy game, honestly. And if you're G2, I think for a moment, a lot of people were expecting them to be 0-2 all of a sudden. I mean, like, oh my God, it's all back, it's all returning. They just can't perform when they play against teams outside of Europe. But the fact that in the end, they managed to claw it back and win the game is important for the confidence, I feel like, if you are G2.
What an interesting start to Rift Rivals. When we look back, we've seen all 6 teams now, 5 teams rather. UOL still have to play in the next one. And we'll see what level they bring to the table as well.
Right.
But interesting results in what I feel every single game. TSM showing up in game 1, Fnatic not having the level of dominance we're expecting, and then this game of throws back and forth.
This was the best one.
Yeah. Feels like a best of 3 almost, but nope. I don't know what your question is, Trevor.
31 kills.
I do not want to know what to say about this. Like,
are you entertained?
Yes.
Are you not
But it also hurts.
We were entertained, and disappointed Dad DeFischer was hurt. G2 support was key in his team's win. Mithy, how the hell did you catch Sneaky?
Interesting question from Quickshot coming in there. Thank you, gentlemen. But the first thing I want to ask you is, they called that a game of throws. How would you describe it, Mithy?
I don't think Riot would allow me to use the right words to describe this game.
All right, but negative feelings mostly, it sounds like.
I mean, happy that I had a good Blitzcrank game, but yeah, really mostly negative. Yeah.
We'll say rough. We'll use the term rough. All right, well, looking at across the game, you opted to go for the Blitzcrank here. What was the thought process up in the drafting phase, at least?
Well, they banned... we banned Tam, and then the other supports were banned. They banned Rakan, they banned Braum, which was what I was looking to play, and then I just fell back on Blitzcrank. We had the better early game jungler, so Blitzcrank is always good if you have the stronger jungler. Especially against Thresh, you can always 5-5 every lane, so I just went for it.
Definitely look good for you guys. Now, what was the major difference between your first match up against TSM and this match against Cloud9? Coming out with the win here, but kind of losing earlier today.
I guess the main difference was that against TSM we fell behind early game, and against C9 we won the early game. I think the team compositions were totally different in every game, so it's really hard to compare ourselves. But in terms of macro, I think we did a good job in the first game playing from behind because we had a good team come to stall, and I think we did a good job at snowballing in this game, at pressuring the vision and just snowballing the game through the fact that we had the pressure of Blitzcrank because it's a very snowball champion if you get ahead. So I think we did a good job on both games, but we made some horrible mistakes that just doomed the game. I think we are playing extremely horribly around tempo. I don't think everyone really sees tempo in our team, and it's just not going so well.
All right, you're sounding a little heated, but one final question to kind of wrap this. Do you expect more games like this for G2 in the tournament? Do you expect to be so close with the enemy teams, to have these early games and still have these struggles in the mid game, or can you expect cleaner closeouts from G2 moving forward?
Judging from scrims and how the week has gone, I don't expect much more from G2. I expect us to not throw the game so hard, but I don't expect us to be clean as we were in the past. And comparing us to other teams, I think we can match up against everyone. I think individually we are as good or better in every position. So maybe worse, maybe better. You know, like everything is like so close. So I don't think there's any opponent that seems like a big deal to us. And yeah, I think we can win against everyone. And it looks like we can also lose, you know, so yeah.
All right, that makes it even more exciting for us. Well, congrats again on the win, as close as it was there. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. For now, we're going to toss it over to Shox in the analyst's desk, though, to break that one down further.
Thank you very much. Mithy is being really honest, and I'm starting to understand why last week in the interview he was like, Fnatic's going to win everything, it's fine, whatever, because they obviously... Well, yeah, he seems to be very honest about the fact that it's not going great. However, there were from both teams very good things to be seen in the game, but obviously you don't want to see it flip-flop that much. And amazing, you especially had something to say about Trick in the early game, setting up the vision and making sure that the plays could be made bottom lane.
Yeah, I always thought that Cloud9's weak spot was almost like the bottom lane because the laning phase is just weak. So, and G2's strength is actually that bottom lane control, getting vision in the enemy jungle and creating picks to that. And I think this game especially, if we... I think
we're going to take a look at the replay.
Well, the replay
Indeed.
coming in. Like we see that Trick always goes in, like he got the Drake, they're not expecting bottom side anymore. He sets up a pick with Blitzcrank, so together they already create this advantage through bottom lane. So from now on, it's all about the vision control, like playing through bot lane, getting the wards down, knowing where the enemy jungle is, and then utilizing this advantage of knowledge in order to create more picks or fights that are advantageous for you. And here we see them like setting up for a bot side vision, like they grab Smoothie, they hook him in, and while C9 thinks they have an advantageous fight because they have 3 men coming in, they don't see that Trick is also like in the same area because they don't have the vision that G2 has.
Yeah, and they start a snowball from there, and I think it's very interesting though that Amazing mentioned that the bottom lane is a weak point for the side of C9 because you mentioned Smoothie in your eyes as one of the best, or not the best support in the NALCS, so is that then not particularly in lane, or do you not agree?
I mean, I think that Smoothie can certainly set up plays and they can play around bot side, but their 2v2 laning has not necessarily been their strength. I think that Sneaky is super solid and Smoothie is a very strong player, but it's more, I think, about their team fighting and their playmaking later stages of the game, like which I think was kind of what helped get them back into the game.
Oh, absolutely. That showed. And as much as it was G2 not capitalizing on the snowball that they started to push, it was also C9 just getting into the groove and getting some really, really good fights. We're going to take a look at one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a very good job playing proactively and actually delaying the game and delaying the game and delaying the game through finding picks, you know, utilizing the Kled engage very, very well. This was a nice play onto Perks. I mean, the combo basically from Contracts and Smoothie there, locking down Perks completely and taking him out is pretty much what allows them to go aggressively forward.
Yeah, well played in this one. And G2, not horrible at team fighting by no means, but they also, well, I mean in general, but C9 did have a pretty good comp also once they
Yeah,
get
exactly.
into the
Like
fight.
most of the picks, like most of G2 picks were reliant on early game advantage and then playing through pace, something that Mithy like said was like basic tempo.
Yeah.
And tempo means that you create plays earlier than the enemy because you have vision advantage, or you create vision advantages and create play advantages. But due to the nature's comp, or the comp's nature rather, like G2 had to basically be set together. They had to be 4 or 5, like maybe with expect flanking, and basically had to walk down a lane, see to turret, whatever it is. But they, like during those stages of setting up, like C9 was able to actually find picks and find engages that G2 should have accounted for.
Yeah, and I think it's very critical that C9 were the ones engaging because Blitzcrank, I think, is so much weaker when he's on the defensive. Like, he doesn't offer a lot of peeling or anything. He's the one that wants to be starting off the fight, and that's why I think the aggressive play from Impact and Smoothie was like really key in the mid game to actually finding picks and keeping them in it.
And it kept happening, and we thought, well, C9 is totally in this one. Sneaky has his Tristana, and you said it was kind of an analyst desk curse, right? You said, well, the only thing that can go wrong is if Sneaky gets caught, because G2 obviously was sitting on 5 dragons as well. And it actually happened second to second.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much weird as I said it, because the thing with this is, they had gotten all these dragons, but they wasn't like big combat dragons. It's not like they're sitting on 3 Infernals or anything like that. And when you give up the Elder, a 5-stack Elder, you are not just giving that up, you're then giving up the Baron, because you can't actually go and fight at that objective afterwards because there's so much damage. And then if you're not going to fight at the Baron and you can't fight them straight up, you're probably giving up multiple inhibitors, which is what happened, and that just put them so far back.
Yeah, basically like giving G2 another like almost like window to snowball and basically create more advantage and get the gold back that they were clearly lacking, like allow G2 just to stomp C9 in the end.
Yeah, in the end, they also took that advantage and just got pick after pick and fight after fight to get to the Nexus.
Yeah, like I thought it was a really good pick from Mithy, and I think had they not gotten that pick, I think the game was C9's, because I don't think from that stage, G2 would have been able to take a 5v5 fight around either of those objectives.
Yeah, I absolutely have to agree. However, watching this game, it's kind of, as an EU fan, you don't really... Like,
I mean, you got the win at the end of the day, right?
But as an NA as well, like, not that you're a fan.
Yeah.
We probably are.
I mean, it's...
Unbiased.
Like, it's one of those things where, yes, it was messy, but Blitzcrank can make these things happen, right? So it's like, that's one of the advantages you get when you have a playmaking champion like that, is you can pull off upsets, you can pull off the big picks, and they're able to do that. And, I mean, G2... created a massive lead. They managed to throw it away, but they secured it in the end. So it's like, they rightfully won.
Overall, they get an A. Well, that's another win for G2. And coming up next, the Unicorns of Love face their first challenge here at Rift Rivals when they go up against Phoenix One. But before we go, starting today, the skins commemorating the 2016 World Champions will hit the in-game store this year. SKT was more involved in the creation of their in-game tributes than ever. Let's take a look.